Victor Antonio.
Give me some noise.
Because we know people who should be successful, but what? They're not successful. Why?
So that's his why buy. But what is he afraid of?
My personal style of education, but still entertain them, bring them along with stories, right?
Who do we want to learn from? People who are what? Killing it. If you're a real man, what do you do? I'm not the only one.
You can't wait to tell your spouse. You can't wait to tell your colleague. You can't wait to go to work and tell somebody. And you're like, oh my God, I can't wait. So what happened?
If you haven't seen my TV show, you should get cable. That's what you need to do.
From doing a TV show to doing corporate events, I've been so lucky to connect with many passionate entrepreneurs worldwide.
What I've learned from a business perspective.
Because this is the formula for success, no matter who you talk to. Attitude will drive your behavior. Would you agree? And your behavior will drive your consequences every single time.
All right, we got the concept. Okay, we got the concept. We got the equipment, right? We got the brand. You guys got that. And then again, we got the content that we create. That's the easy part. This is the big one, the big C, which is the commitment.
What should you do? That's right. All right. 10Xers, do not fail me. True test. Here it comes.
There's skill, and then there's will. Listen to what I'm saying. There is skill, and then there is will. And here's the interesting thing. I know a lot of people who have a lot of skill, but have no what? Will, right? You ever look at somebody who's successful, and you say, why them, why not you? Yes, okay, that's me too.
You have more control, but your costs are also going to be what? Higher.
Now, here's where some of the magic is starting to kick in.
You can talk to any CEO in the B2B business, any CEO. You walk into his office and they only care about three things. People too. Yeah, you with the suit, put it up. There you go. I hope you can see this. I'll try to draw big. Let's pretend for a moment that I had 7 territories. You remember I wrote that out? Yes or no? Boom. Territory 2, territory 3, all the way to territory number what? 7. So now I've segmented my market.
So content is going to start being created by machines. And I'm telling you right now that those people, you guys, the content creators that connect with people are the ones that are going to win. Some people think, well, it won't work for my industry. Really? It'll work for any industry. Trust me. The majority of the time when we're looking to fix something, repair something, or learn something, where do we go? YouTube. We don't even want to read anymore. We go to YouTube. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong.
When you're doing your thing, beautiful things begin to happen. It's like the law of attraction kicks in. You know what I mean? It's almost like you're in line with the universe. Everything works. And when you do your thing, everybody gets an automatic MBA, which stands for what? Mega Bank Account Money. Are you with me? So we don't want to do a thing. We want to do a what? Beautiful.
All right, put it all together for Victor Antonio. Here we go.
All right, there we go. I'm not here to mess around. You ready to learn, yes or no?
That's how it works in today's market. Whether it's B2B or B2C, you see the similar pattern. How do you just, in other words, say you got to start doing these things, pushing them, but also encouraging them. Oh, look at this. This is where it gets, dude, this is like so interactive with audiences, Matt. Can you imagine this with your customers? Check this out. Now, what does all this have to do with selling? It has everything to do with selling.
What's happening, folks?
Yes, it's a little Sales After Dark action, man. Back in the house again. Hit me up on the chat here. I got my man, Kevin Holt. I posted him on there already. Mr. Sensual Obsessions himself, man. Thank you for being here. Dude, I have not seen this man in a while. There he is, Inkle John, the value merchant himself. So anyway, thank you for being here. Like I said, I thought I'd jump online. I got a couple of things I want to cover today, but if there's anything you have that you want to cover, let me know, man. Let me know how my audio sounds. So hopefully the audio sounds beautiful. And like I said, if you have any questions, man, hit me up. Other than that, I'm going to jump into something here just to kind of really just kind of stir the pot on sales. One of the biggest questions I've been getting lately is, how do you overcome objections? That's one. But two is, how do you get clients to switch over? In this market, what we're trying to do is get people to switch over to our product or service. So one of the things I always get is like, dude, how do you do that? Let me get my little foot stand underneath here. So what I want to talk about is how do you begin to move people over? Because I think it's one of those things where, thank you, Inkle John. It's one of those things where there's a lot of times we're going to see a company, but they're already using a vendor, right? Now, you guys know that one of the responses I have when someone says they're happy with their current supplier, what do you say? If I asked you right now, let's say you're trying to sell me something, and I say to you, no, I'm happy with my current supplier. I'm happy with my current vendor. How would you respond? Hit me up on the chat. How would you respond to that? How would you shift that conversation? If somebody says, I'm happy with my current supplier, I'm happy with my current vendor, hit me up on the chat. Come on, what would you say? What would be your comeback? What would be your what would you go back with? What do you think you would say? Or does the conversation get really uncomfortable right there and there? What would you say if somebody said that? Well, here, I didn't get any responses here, but I'll give you something because maybe you guys are drawing blanks. Here's one of the things I like to say. When someone says, I'm happy with my current supplier, here's the mindset. Adrian Black says, what do you like about them? That's not a bad answer, right? That's not a bad statement. Well, what do you like about them? And then they're going to tell you what they like about them. So I like that. What problems are you, Bill H says, what problems are you currently facing? Right? Good statements. Now, the first one with Adrian here, what do you like about them? Now, the problem with asking that question, and I get where you're going, Adrian, but the problem with asking that question, if you say to them, what do you like about them? You're reinforcing in their mind what they like about them. In other words, if the customer starts telling you what they like about them, what you just created a situation where the client is reinforcing why they really like them. So it's not really the ideal question to ask. Bill H would say, what problems are you currently facing? Well, Bill, I'm currently happy with my current supplier. I don't have any real problems. Then it gets really uncomfortable right there, Bill, right? It's like, so it's a good question, but not going to get you over the edge, so to speak. That girl's thinks she's bad says, great. If there was anything you would change or enhance, what would it be? I like her, right? Because that's a great question. If there's anything you can improve, what would it be? If there's anything you could change, what would it be? That's a real good one, man. If I could drop stars on you, I would do that right now. I would love it. What could they do better? Patricia's coming in from the side going, what could they do better? I think the ladies are killing it tonight. That's also a great response. Like, what could they do better? Because again, what you're trying to bring to the forefront in their mind, or create top of mind, is what are they missing? Where's the gap between what you offer and what they're offering? And you want to highlight that. One of my favorite phrases to use in that situation when someone says, I'm happy with my current supplier. I want to use this phrase here. And I learned this. I learned this. I'm not going to cop somebody's stuff. I learned this from Grant Cardone. He has a great phrase. It goes like this: lean in the direction of the objection. That's a great phrase if you think about it. Lean in the direction of the objection. In other words, when somebody objects, go with the objection. Lean in the direction of the objection. Don't be afraid of it. So in this case, when someone says to me, I'm happy with my current supplier, here's what I say. Inkle John says, Inkle John says, I remember you said before, sequence the question properly, like in the BF and the GF thing, the boyfriend and girlfriend thing. How many times you date before asking, are you happy? I don't know where you're going with that, man, but let's move on. Let me get to my point here. But thank you. If someone says, I'm happy with my current supplier, step one, lean in the direction of the objection. What you say is, I'm happy that you're happy with your current supplier. My favorite then follow-up question is, in business,
isn't it always good to have options? Now, what do you think the customer is going to say? What do you think the customer is going to say when you say that? Like, I'm glad you're happy. And again, I would use that girl's think she's bad. I said, again, this is a great line. Let's not discount this. This is a great line. If there was anything you would change or enhance, what would it be? Okay? And again, great line, or what could they do better? Again, you're looking for the gaps. Love all those. But as soon as I say, I'm glad you're happy with your current supplier, but let me ask you a question. Now, as soon as you say, let me ask you a question, what did you just do? You've taken control of the conversation. So you say, let me ask you a question, to which they're going to say, yes, right? And you say, in business, isn't it always good to have options? Isn't it always good to have options? What do you think they're going to say? The answer is they're going to say, yeah, it's always good to have options. Well, Mr. Customer, that's all we are, another option. Would you mind if I present whatever it may be? Now, what you just did is I say, I'm not trying to come in and push the other person out, which is what you're really trying to do. But what you're saying is, I respect that you're happy with your current supplier. I just want to be right next to them in case they ever fail. That's all we're trying to do, is position ourselves in the second spot. Now, you know what typically happens over time is that if you do it the right way, they'll give you an opportunity. I used to sell a lot of telecom equipment, like high-end B2B sales equipment. And trust me, customers always said, Victor, we're happy with our current supplier. To which I said, I'm happy that you're happy, but in business, isn't it always good to have options? They would always say, yeah, of course it is, Victor. Well, that's all. Consider us an option. Let me walk you through what we have, and then you can compare it with what you're currently getting. Notice what I just did. Let me show you what we have, and then you can compare it with what you're currently getting. And I'm allowing them to contrast. Now, contrast, as you know, is a powerful principle in selling. If we can show them the difference, the gap, that's when customers start paying attention. So that's one way of doing it, right? If someone's happy, again, let's try to position ourselves as number two right next to who they're currently using, and then highlight the differences between what they're giving them and what we have to offer. Now, I've gotten this tough question. So, Victor, what if we have to offer is almost the same or at parity with what they're currently buying? And again, you don't want a lower price, right? Because that's just a death spiral, right? You start discounting, that's just a death spiral. What if you have a product that's very similar? Again, mindset. You want to position yourself as another second source supplier. Listen to that phrase, a second source supplier. That means if they don't deliver, you're right there to catch them. A lot of companies love second source suppliers. So again, that's another way you can kind of get in. And sometimes you don't want all the business. There's a strategy called the foot. Let me see if I can get my marker going. There's something called the foot in the door. The foot in the door strategy. Now, this is a real strategy. You can look it up online. It's a real strategy. And what you're trying to do with the foot in the door strategy is just to get a little bit of business. Just give me a little bite, right? Just give me a little taste, so to speak, of the business. So if they're buying from one supplier or one person or one company, and let's say that's 100% of their buy, then you say, why don't you just throw 5% of our business our way, 5% of what you're buying our way, and let us show you what we can do. Give us a small taste. That's the foot in the door. And obviously the angle here is that if you get a little bit of the business, you begin to expand that as you start delivering and performing. That is called the foot in the door. Now, it's a great strategy, but again, customers are anxious. In other words, if they're happy with the current supplier, getting them to switch over is difficult because of all the things that might go wrong. So let me go back to something I always describe. And if you understand this model, which I've highlighted in the past, but I'm going to highlight it again because, again, I keep getting the question, Victor, how do I position myself with a customer so they can switch over to me? Well, let's talk about the psychology, the persuasion ability of the actual buyer. In other words, are they persuadable? How do we know? Well, let's look at the iceberg analogy. And I've done this many times, and again, I just want to highlight this. Let's say that this is the iceberg. We know that with an iceberg, you can see 10% of the iceberg, right? 90% you don't see, right? Simple, right? When we're selling to a customer, typically what we do is we talk about features, benefits, advantage, and maybe we talk about the gains that they'll get if they buy our product or service, right? That's what we do. Feature, benefit, advantage, gain. Again, nothing wrong with that. We have to present that to our customers. But in reality, what's holding them back is what lies below the waterline, so to speak, this 90% down here. Now think about a customer that you currently have. Let's say you're trying to sell them a CRM system, right?
let's say you're trying to sell a CRM system, and it could be any type of SaaS product, a sales enablement platform, a sales engagement platform, whatever it may be. Let's say you're selling a software product. Let me ask you a question. Hit me up on the chat. I can talk about the features, I can talk about the benefits and the advantage and the gain of this actual software, but what's holding somebody back from buying? What would hold you back from buying a new software platform? Hit me up on the chat, I'll pause. Hit me up on the chat. What would hold you back from actually buying the actual product? What would hold you back from buying a new CRM system? Then what would it be? Walk me through it. Walk me through it. I definitely want to know. Let me see if I can go thinner on this marker. Let me go blue here to give you a difference. What would it be? What would you do? What would be the reasons you wouldn't buy that product? Okay? What would be the reasons? What would be the reasons you wouldn't buy? What would stop you from moving over? You got a CRM system. It's working fine. Nothing wrong with it. Nobody's really complaining. What would hold you back? Inkle says, it's the anxiety in taking the risk. I might lose money. Okay? Not a bad answer. Bill has it. Bill talks about the fear of the unknown. Dig deeper, Bill. Bill, tell me, dig deeper. What does that mean? What's the fear of the unknown? Again, put yourself in the space. Inkle, Bill, put yourself in the space, right? You're there. You want to basically, you want to buy it, but what's holding you back? The girl thinks she's bad, says, if my current program is working exactly as I intended, come on, give me more, give me more. Patricia says, scared, might be complicated. Oh, dig deeper, people. Come on, I'm pulling more. Yes, by the way, all good answers, but they're very superficial, surface level answers. Be the customer. I have a CRM. I'm a manager. I'm the decision maker. I have a sales team under me. They're using it. Why am I, and you've demonstrated your product. I'm like, I like your product. It has great features. Benefits are there. I can see the advantage, and I can see how I would probably help us more. But what would hold me back as a manager? Mike, Janice, good to see you, man. They are on the hook for a bad decision. Okay, so by the way, so let's put, I'm gonna take that one. So in other words, I'll just say, I don't know how to put that. It's basically you're looking out for yourself. So in other words, they're worried about their self and their position. That's real. I like that one. I'm taking that one. I'm taking it. Integration. Oh, look at that. Inkle John is kicking it up. And now they're thinking, how about integration problems? Will it integrate with my current system? Because remember, the CRM could be tied to some other enablement platform, right? So I love that. Bill is in the game, training efficiently on usage of new programs. So now, Bill, you're in there. So now it's talking about what? Training, let's say time, right? And efficiency, taking them away from what they're currently doing. You're back in, man. Let me see. Loss of productivity. You're kicking it out. Did I miss a couple? Yes, I did. Again, change is scary. That's the obvious one, but let's dig deeper on that one. Want to find out if there's a better CRM. There might be something better out there. I like it, Jack. I'm not pushing back. I like it, man. I like it, but man, let's dig deeper. Bill is back again with loss of productivity and profit during training on the new CRM. Boom. So now we're talking productivity, right? Okay, we got some productivity issues we have to do during training. How much time and productivity we're going to lose, because that's a cost, right? That's part of what is known as the total cost of ownership. Bill is in the game. Bill is in the game. User training, Kenneth, you're on it. Adaptation to the new system. So both on the money, Kenneth. So again, training and productivity, get him to go. Love it, man. Bill, compatibility issues. Again, it was brought up. I'll leave it out under integration. Dead on, man. The hungry guy says, more often is the human connection relationship between vendor and the user. I get that. I accept that. But you're selling up here. If you're worried about the relationship, you're selling up here. Here, look, up here, I would give it to you, hungry guy. It's about the relationship. But under here, below the water level, this is about anxiety, right? And what's holding them back. So I'm with you. We got to have a good relationship, right? But what's holding them back? So far, we got loss of productivity. That's big. Training time. How much time that might impact productivity. Integration, compatibility issues. Oh, and by the way, how would this impact my career if I made the wrong decision? So now you're digging into it. Jack Tank, technical support. Will I get the support? I'll take that, man. I will take that. In other words, well, what about the support? If we have any problems, what about the support? What else we got? Mike Janice says, you are not set up as a current vendor. Dude, that one is so subtle. That one right there, man, is so subtle. So, vendor, right? So, in other words, if they're not vendor approved, right, that's a process you have to go through. So the customers, the manager's thinking, okay, now we got to go through this whole process of getting them approved. Okay, so that's an issue. Dude, that's a bell ringer right there, man. That is the bell ringer right there. The cost has changed and more than the cost of remaining the same. Yes, I agree with that. That's the motivation, right? I get that. You're back up here again. You're back up here, man. I need you to, you know what I mean? Get under the water. Come on. That girl thinks she's bad. I need you to kind of dig deep. I agree with you. You're absolutely right that the cost of this not change is what's really costing them money. So I agree with you. Cash flow is needed for other initiatives and opportunity costs. That, Adrian, that's a good one, man. So that would be, how would we phrase that one? Because what you're saying is it's about priorities, right? So I don't, man, I don't know where to fit that one. Adrian, I don't know if it's above the waterline or below the waterline, but it's a good one. Let's talk about priority, because what you're talking about is opportunity cost, this versus that. Great point, exceptional point. That was a good one, actually. Employee buy-in with the new program. Dude, Bill is just killing it today. Bill is just killing it. He's got like 3 in here already. So Bill, so we'll talk about adoption, right? In other words, they may push back. That is a huge one. They may push back. I love that already. Uncertainty, Dean, I'm with you, but let's define. This is defining. Below the waterline, we're defining what that anxiety and what that uncertainty is. So I'm with you. What is the ROI going to be? Now, Alan, you're right, but you're back up here. You're back up here. You're selling up here on the logical side. I think that's more of the logical component. This is the emotional component. You may be right in the sense that to go below the waterline is that you may have to show the ROI to your managers to get approval. So I'm going to give it to you, man. That's a good one. Let me see. I don't want to be the one to make a bad decision when everyone thinks what we have works. Yes, this goes back to the self. How is that going to impact me if I make a wrong decision? So the fear of how it would impact me, you're in the game. You are in the game. I can't see how I can reduce costs with your system. I think that's the logical one up here still. Uncle John, it's a good one, but I think you're still up here. Let me see. Mike Janice, and we'll roll it up with this one. Your terms and conditions different from ours. I'm not sure that I can get them changed. By the way, so that one right here is T's and C's. In other words, there might be something in the contract that if I cancel with my existing supplier, how will that impact me? That's how I would put a spin on that. Now, having said all this, now, when you look at this, besides the fact that it looks like a mess, right? What typically happens is that we present, when we're doing a product presentation or a product demo, we talk about the features of the product, we talk about the benefits, we talk about the advantages, what they're gonna get versus what they have today, how it's gonna help them in the market, and one could argue, I can talk about the ROI, the return on investment, if you decide to go with our system. In other words, here's your break-even point, this is how it's going to work, and over the long run, it's going to be much cheaper, blah, blah, blah. And I think all of that is still up here. You know what I mean? All of that is still up here. But what we want to do, again, if we draw, let me go to blue here. I need a differentiating color. If this is the water line, I want to be down here. These are the things that we typically don't bring up. And yet I truly believe that these are the things that really provide the real resistance when it comes to an actual deal. So in this case, what I would do, if I'm presenting, you got to present feature, benefit, advantage, gain, return on investment, total cost of ownership, all that stuff, right? Got it. Got to present it. Check, 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 check. But in reality, what begins to happen down here, and I think I lost my graph here, what begins to happen, I totally lost my graph, is let's list these out. Let's list these out. So we had what? Self. I got to talk about that. T's and C's. I got to talk about that. I got to talk about adoption rate. That was a big one. So what I would do is, let me just kind of erase some of this stuff here. What I would then do, and I can't get this down here for some reason. There it is. Let me see if I can expand that again. Perfect. Gotta love this board, man. Gotta love the board. So all of a sudden,
all these things are concerning us, right? All these things down here are concerning us, which means in the presentation, what I want to do, you kind of see if I can blow that up. In fact, what I'll do is I'll go full screen so you can really see it. So what I want to do, I'll put my head right there. Let's see if that works. So what I want to do, if I have a presentation, what I want to do then is, again, let me bring it back here, is I want to, let me see if I can squeeze this over here a little bit. When I do my presentation, I will then take these items and sequence them in my presentation. In other words, I will talk about each of these issues. By the way, each box is like a slide. In your presentation, I will talk about where it fits, make it a priority. We'll talk about the support. We'll talk about it's going to be a great decision. We'll give them the confidence. We'll talk about vendor approval, so forth and so on. So what I would do is, if I'm presenting to a client and I've done the feature benefit advantage game, what I want to do is talk about the issues that are really going to drag the sale down. Because here's what happens. If you don't bring up any of these, I'll call them below the water issues, these issues are going to pop up later on when you're not there. For example, let me create a scenario. You've gone in there. You've done that unicorn presentation. You know what I mean by the unicorn presentation? Everything went well, right? So again, you talked about feature, benefit, advantage, gain, return on investment, break-even points, total cost of ownership, and everybody's like, yeah, we really like this. Let us think about it. As soon as you leave, they're going to have these conversations. You know, I really liked Victor's presentation. It was a great presentation. I really love, you know, what he talked about, the software. I really love the interface. My biggest concern is that we have to go through the vendor approval process again, and that's just going to take too long, and we have to get the paperwork in line and so forth. So that's one issue. The second issue is adoption. I mean, how do we know our people are going to use it? Talked about adoption, right? And third, I mean, we need to check on integration and compatibility. So we'll need to talk to our CTO and our CIO to make sure that, so all of a sudden, all these issues bubble to the surface when you're gone. You're not there to answer them. And what happens is the deal stalls or they ghost you. Yeah, they ghost you. That means they don't return your phone calls and don't get back to you. And you walked out there thinking that was a great presentation. It probably was. It probably was magnificent. Again, a unicorn presentation. Magical. But as soon as you leave there, and as soon as they start talking about how to really execute/implement this new software system, these realities begin to set in. So what's the solution? As I've pointed out already, what you should do is look at your presentation today. Again, focus on the top part, feature, benefit, advantage, gain, but then ask yourself, how are you bringing in these issues? How are you introducing these issues into your presentation? So for example, I would say if I knew that adoption was a big thing, one of the things I would do is raise the objection myself. Again, in my Sales Velocity Academy, for those of you who know, I have an academy, an online academy called the Sales Velocity Academy. Just go to salesvelocityacademy.com. I talk about blocking objections, and that is when you raise the objection and you dismiss it. So here's what I would do. I would say, Mr. Customer, I said, one of the biggest pushbacks we get is adoption, right? Now, what do you think happens when you raise the objection on adoption? Client goes, well, I'm glad he brought it up because I was concerned about that. Because they're thinking it, but maybe they're not saying it. As soon as you raise it, you control the conversation. So you say, one of the issues people typically raise is adoption. Will our users use it? Well, the software you're currently using is very familiar to us. We've worked with a lot of customers and we've migrated them from what they currently have, which is like yours, over to our new system. And what we found is that the adoption time for the average person is about 2 or 3 days, or 3 to 5 days. And we think that the acceptance rates usually typically 80 to 90% within the first week. And by the end of 30 days, we get 100% adoption, whatever the numbers are. All of a sudden, you've answered that question for them. Now you can answer another one. Another question we often get, and again, you find your way of saying this. Another question we get is integration. Can you tell me a little bit about your operating system? Making this up, right? Or if they're using this current platform, and you know that if they're using that platform, that CRM system, that SaaS product, you know yours is compatible. Depending on their operating system, or independent of their operating system, you know yours will work. So you raise that issue. I said one of the questions we get is whether this system will work with your current system, blah, 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 in terms of interoperability, expandability, integratability. You say, we've done this, we've worked with companies, we've moved over, so forth and so on. We've moved and transferred software over. By the way, data is another one. how do you port the data over, right? Because how do you bring the data over? Again, that could be an objection in somebody's mind. Well, how do we port the data over from what we're currently using to yours, and what's going to be the integrity level of that data? In other words, are the fields going to match up? Can I bring everything over and not lose any data? Again, that could be an issue down here. You would raise the issue, and then again, you would answer it in the presentation. And if you do that, what begins to happen is that all of a sudden you start knocking down each one of these hurdles throughout your presentation, whether it's the terms and condition, again, impact of productivity, all these. And all of a sudden you can just feel the resistance going down and the acceptance of your product going up if you can actually answer the real issues that are below the waterline. So that's all I wanted to talk about tonight, because I think people get stuck when they're trying to get a customer to switch over. They have a great presentation, and it's typically because they've presented up here. There's no real issues up here. Nobody's going to argue about your features, your benefits, your advantages, your gains. Return on investment, break-even points. Not a real argument there. It's a very logical argument, right? Logical discussion, rather. But down here, this is the emotional stuff. The stuff I'm afraid of, the fear, the anxiety of moving over is where the real resistance is in any deal you're trying to move forward or close. And on that note, I'll take any questions. And let me see. Somebody said, that girl thinks she's bad, said you have to bring the objections up. I think that's what you mean, right? And I agree 100%. Let me see. Read your response block selling book. You should read the response block selling book, is where I talk about blocking objections. I tell anybody and everybody, if you go to the Sales Velocity Academy, the most important course in there is blocking objection, the most important. If you learn the art of blocking objections, I'm telling you, I'm not saying kind of, sort of, maybe, I am telling you, you will increase your close rate. So get the book Response Block Selling, available on Amazon. It also has about 22, 23 scripts of the most common objections you're going to get. So let me see. Bill H says, thank you for the live. Been rocking with the VA for 3 years now, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate that, Bill. Thank you. Thank you so much, man. Always brilliant ideas. Thank you, guys. If you have any questions, again, let me know. If you get a chance, go to victorantonio.com. By the way, we got some new master classes coming up. Hope to see you there. Hope you enjoyed the live. Take care. I think I'm out of here, and we'll see you. Have a great night or a great day, depending on where you're at.